So today's topic is how to be a woman. Men marry women, males marry females. Okay, so this is going to be a really, really exciting one. Hello from Morocco. Wow. Thank you. Okay, so let's get started. So in all species, well, most species, I believe, I don't know if it's all, but I think a majority of the species, there is a female and then there's a male. And I believe that as we, you know, grow up, learn different things, evolve our consciousness, males grow into men. That's why we call them boys, because they're kind of like men in training when they're young. And females grow into women. But it just so happens now with the shift in culture, especially in the Western world, with the equality movement, obviously that was needed. So it's not, that nothing against that. I just think it's been taken a little bit too far. We're still being born as male or female. We're just not learning the rites of passage that turn us into or evolve us into men and women. And in a lot of tribes that I know that I ended up studying as part of my studies in school, and I think the Jewish culture still really does this well, there was a rite of passage for boys where they had to, especially in the tribes, they had to go through really harsh things to kind of earn their right to be called a man. And this is like 13, 14, 15, 16, depending on the tribe. They were kind of separated from their mother and the tribe, and they were put to different tests and things that they had to do to reach this right to become to call themselves a man. It was like full-on training. And women were handed down, or females were handed down, this ancestral knowledge and the art of femininity and how to deal with men, how to seduce men, how to communicate with men. And I know that when I would spend a lot of time in my parents' native country, Pakistan, as a little girl, I would get this training from my grandmother and my elder aunts and my older cousins. They would tell me, oh, you can't sit with your legs open like that when I was little. Like there was a lot of proper training on how to be. But then when I would come back to the United States, that would kind of get wired out because the culture here is all about equality and what boys can do, girls can do, what girls can do, boys can do. And we're missing a lot of this. So what's happening now is females are not becoming women. They're just getting older and marrying males. So when a female marries a male, there's a lot of gender role confusion. There's, either they arrive at 50-50, or the woman is the one that's providing and protecting, or, there's just a lot of confusion, right? Like who agrees with me that there's just this innate confusion in the dating world, and especially in relationships and marriage. This didn't happen before because you knew what your role was. Now, even in Pakistan, like my mom, when she was 16, my mom was born into a very poor family. I don't know if I've mentioned this before. My dad was from a very wealthy family, and my mom was from a very, very poor family. And my mom had to work, in that country, even though it's not normal for women to work, especially back then. At 16, she had to get a job to help support her family. Her dad had become disabled. He'd been hit by a car, and there was 7 of them. And they all had to kind of fend for themselves. And even in my dad's family, by the time I was little and visiting, I had, cousins that were teachers, or I had one cousin that was even a principal of a school. So, they could go to work and be, badass boss babes or whatever, but they knew the way that they spoke to their husband and the way that they know how to navigate very, very tricky situations. Back then I would see them navigating some really difficult situations with this just class and grace, and they knew how to get their husbands on their side. I had forgotten all of this when I married Irfan. Irfan has 2 older sisters, and his really older sister, her daughter is my age, and she is born and raised here to her daughter. She noticed some of my behavior when she came to visit when Ayan was born. So this was like 18 months into the marriage. And she very gracefully, very like with so much class, reminded me how women deal with the men in Pakistan. And it was like this light bulb switch went on for me. So you have to learn to be a woman. In today's climate, you have to learn to be a woman. Many of you guys probably had grandmothers or mothers that may have taught you some of this stuff. And maybe you thought it was old fashioned, and maybe you thought, oh, this isn't going to work or whatever. It works. And we need to go back to that. So we're going to touch on some of this stuff here. And of course, we can't touch on all of it. It's a live stream, not a training. But if you guys want the full training, I have the live intensive, The Physics of Femininity, happening on January 16th. It's linked below. So let's talk about this. So what is happening in today's climate is that I'm seeing a lot of females, meaning women, like people born with female parts, okay, asking for men. And then they're because they're females, they haven't grown into a full woman. They're having a lot of hard times in dating, finding a man, because a man who has gone through the transition into manhood, who knows how to provide and protect, he doesn't want a female, he wants a woman. And when he's dating, he is looking for certain characteristics in what makes a woman a woman. And we're going to touch on this. A lot of times you will end up marrying a man, but if you are a female and not a woman, you will downgrade him into a male. And the way I want you to think of this is that male and females are very much the human animal. They are two nervous systems attacking each other. Okay, they are very much in the ego. They're very much in fight or flight or survival. And this is how a lot of the couples that I coach, or even a lot of the women that come to me, they're in that mode. And I have to get them out of that mode to even see what they have. And what they have may be very beautiful, but they may be full on in self-sabotage because they're a female, they're not a woman. So regardless of whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 60s, 70s, and everything in between, we're going to touch on some of this stuff. And then I'm going to give you my blueprint, starting from the age of 18 all the way up to your 60s and 70s, on what I think you can do to live your best life. And this is just my personal opinion, okay? So a woman is someone that has grown into womanhood. She has a balanced masculine and feminine side. Look at it this way. Little girls are very, very feminine, but they're not women. Okay? Little girls, even little boys, can be very much in their feminine, but they're not women. They don't have emotional self-mastery. Okay? They may not even know the art of full surrender yet. Like, they haven't learned certain things. So balance feminine and masculine in a female who's growing into a woman looks like 80 to 90% feminine and about 10 to 15, all the way up to maybe 20% masculine. When that is reversed, we're going to get into a little bit of science right now. I'm not a doctor, you guys know that, but I coach a lot of doctors and medical professionals and all kinds of people. So this has been verified that we just don't have as much testosterone as men do. Females do not have the same level of testosterone as well as other hormones as men do. So when we have very masculine ways of being or very masculine jobs, we actually start like almost damaging our nervous system. Like, it gets locked into a position that's very much in survival mode. The reason that women were given a little bit of testosterone was to use in dire situations. Like, let's say there's a lion chasing you, or let's say, God forbid, that all the men in the tribe got killed. There's a scarcity of food. Maybe they went hunting and never came back or something like that. Then the female would be able to use some of her masculine energy to make sure that her offspring survived. It was all about passing the genes on to the next generation, right? In the survival human animal. So Nowadays, most women in the Western world and even a lot in the Eastern world are locked into the masculine energy for long periods in the day, which is sending the signal in their nervous system that there's something wrong, that there's no man available, do not rest, we are in survival, like you have to do it. And we are not designed to be in that mode all the time. Our nervous system simply can't manage that. So the art of learning to be a grown woman, there's rites of passage. And the number one thing I think you're going to have to learn, number one, and a lot of people struggle with this, is surrender. This is where my clients have the worst time because they come in and they're strong. I work, to give you kind of a framework, my average viewer, follower, and the average woman that hires me makes $150,000. So we're talking about really professional women with they're degreed up, they've got certificates. These are women that have law degrees and medical degrees, and these are IT professionals. These are CEOs, CFOs, high level managers. We're talking about some really high achieving women. And so when they come to me with this long list of stuff that their man is doing incorrectly, and we start working together, what you start seeing is that they can't surrender for long enough to let him do it. Well, Mina, he's going to do it wrong. Well, which one is it then, babe, right? Like, are you saying he's not capable of doing it, or you won't let him do it because you're afraid to surrender to his leadership? If you don't know how to surrender, you're downgrading his entire experience. First of all, when you go on a date, real men who have gone through that transition are going to weed you out anyways. And if I'm talking to a man, whether this is my son my sons who are growing up and going through this training now, or a client or a friend or a brother or a cousin, and they tell me, Mina, what should I be looking for when I'm dating? I tell them, don't marry the woman that can't surrender. Yes, she can learn later, but you are going to be in for a rude awakening because that's a process. So to my male friends, my men who would be asking for my advice, that is what you should be looking for. A woman that can't surrender, she can't relax into your leadership, will not make a good wife. She's not a woman yet. She hasn't grown into womanhood. Okay? Let me know in the chat right now who struggles with this. Who struggles with the art of surrender? This is going to be the foundation of womanhood. Teach Korea said, love this. I started incorporating this mindset into my fitness coaching. Women weren't designed to go hard all the time. They weren't. And they will send they'll send the signal that there's something wrong. That's why we start releasing high levels of cortisol when we go too hard. There are actually times in our cycle where we would benefit from relaxing. Exactly, Teach Korea, you are 110% correct. Okay, so if you can't surrender to faith, first and foremost, whether you believe in God or you believe in the universe, like, doesn't matter what you believe in, as long as you believe in something that's higher than yourself and you can relax into this world knowing that there's someone out there that's deeply loving you and supporting you, that you are not here alone, that's surrender. Surrender is when your partner says, you have a desire and your partner doesn't agree, and you drop it, knowing that if you're meant to have it, you'll get it. If he wants to give it to you, he will figure it out. And or he's right. Maybe it's not the right time. Surrender means not solving a man's problems, letting him figure it out. Most women are so afraid of even discussing their desires with their partner because their partners will get mad, is what I hear, right? Surrender means you voice your desires and you let him figure it out. If he gets mad, he gets mad. Those are his emotions. Men usually get mad when you take them out of their comfort zone because conserving energy, remember, it's harder for them to protect you when they have to change something up. So of course they're going to get mad initially and then they'll figure it out. Suman said, I'm totally into surrender mode. You taught me, your videos are gem. Thank you, Suman. Stephanie said, Mina, what book do you recommend on evolutionary science? Oh my God, Stephanie, there's so many. I would be blanking out on. I studied this stuff in college, so a lot of anthropology books. Richard Dawkins. Go back like Darwin. Like go back to like the fathers of evolution, who I would say, and then anytime you find one good book, go to the back and read all the references, and then you'll find a whole bunch of other books. Okay. So let's keep going. So the art of surrender is one. And then the second one is the art of receiving. If you haven't learned how to receive, you have not taken the rites of passagehood into womanhood. Giving is a very masculine trait. Now, women give too. But we are in our masculine when we're giving. That's why we've got that 10, 20, 15%. But if you don't know how to receive, if you don't know how to sit back and let someone give to you, you are a female, you haven't gone into the rite of womanhood yet. You haven't made that transition. You could be in your 50s and not really be in your womanhood yet because you don't know how to receive. You've always been the giver. You've always been the caretaker. You've always, okay? So the art of receiving is a rite of passage. You can know this stuff, but if you don't know how to actually implement it in everyday life, then you're going to have a lot of trouble in relationships. I fear being surrendered to my hubby. I feel I will be taken advantage of by him. So why did you marry a man that you feel will take advantage of you? Has he given you some signs of that? Okay, so you have two options. Either you have to leave him because he's a predator, as all men are, that switch can be turned on, or you have to surrender. You don't get to be in limbo. The being in limbo in a situation is when you're addicted to suffering. When you refuse to find a solution and move forward, you're addicted to suffering. In the coaching world, we call these people uncoachable. They don't want to solve their problem. They think they do. They don't. So you have to make a very grown-up decision that did I actually marry the wrong man that I can't absolutely surrender to, or I need to learn the art of surrender. And I always tell my clients, give yourself a year to figure this out. Put certain things in place and figure this out. You owe it to that man. Otherwise, let him go. Stop abusing him as well. From a man's perspective, being stuck in a relationship where the woman refuses to surrender or receive, how traumatic, because that is what they're giving. It's like they're working so hard and it's not landing anywhere. Okay, so number 1 was surrender, 2 was receiving. Third, the passage into womanhood. They're very good at teaching this in the Eastern world. It's 3 or 4 things. I'm going to put them as slashes. Body language, the art of communicating through your energy, through your body language, voice. How many of you guys noticed my voice changed when I was with my husband? I teach this in the Feminine Voice Mastery class, which is also linked. I have many different voices. When I'm wanting to be authoritative, my voice comes from here, my personal power. When I'm wanting to be in my feminine, my voice, which I just changed, comes from my womb space. When I'm wanting to be seductive, my voice comes from somewhere else. Okay, so you can change your voice. You've got many different voices. Remember that men were designed to be stronger than women, or I should say males. And so females were given certain soft skills to be able to have a leg up and use the male strength to their advantage when needed. So this is something that you need to learn. Okay. And the art of surrender and receiving, I teach that in the Sacred Feminine Intensive. All of this is linked in the description box. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, The art of pleasure. If you didn't learn the art of pleasure, how to be in your pleasure, you did not transition into womanhood. This is why in the American culture, and perhaps even in other cultures, women have such a hard time, being aroused during, sexual intimacy or having an orgasm. Like there's just so much lack of pleasure. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you for the super chat. Sarah said, "Hi, Mina. I told my boyfriend I can't make rent. He gave me $300 and said, give it back when I can. I was offended because he wants it back. Am I wrong?" No, you should be offended. Are you living with him without being married? That he's a roommate at this point. So I don't consider boyfriend and girlfriend an actual status. I'm actually going to, when I'm done going through this, I'm going to tell you from the age of 18 to the age of like 70, 80, what I would consider the ideal lifestyle plan for a woman. But babe, you need to energetically downgrade him into a roommate, which means you have space open to start dating. This is a roommate situation. He is your roommate. He's giving you $300 and saying that he wants it back. Like, I'm disgusted by that. You should act disgusted. Okay, this is a male. This is not a man. Sarah, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to like downgrade this relationship into roommate, which it is. We're just being honest, and start dating other men who will be more than happy to pay your rent. And I said men, by the way, Sarah, not males. Okay. I got a hair. Okay, let's get started. Okay, well, let's keep going. I mean, pleasure. Okay. Then the last one is desire. The art of desire. The art of owning your desires, even if they seem really far-fetched right now. The art of owning your desire and then surrendering that if they're meant to come to you, they will come. That someone somewhere will make them manifest, whether it's God consciousness, whoever you believe in, the universe, your partner, someone will make it happen. Okay. So someone said, please elaborate on pleasure a bit. Do you taste your food when you eat it? So one thing that used to be really interesting to me, so I, was raised in a Pakistani culture, right? I was born and raised in the United States, but we often went back to visit, and all my cousins and aunts and uncles, like mostly everyone's Pakistani, and then we have some Indian people as well. We were raised around all of this rich, delicious, really flavorful food. And I'm a foodie, I love food. But it would really be interesting to me when people would be able to eat something and be like, oh, I can taste the cumin and I can taste the turmeric, because I couldn't taste anything because I was wolfing that stuff down. I was basically eating like I was a werewolf, just like gulping it down. I had a friend that very kindly, not so kindly, but I'm very grateful, said, Mina, I'm like, what? She's like, people are looking at us. You're eating like a homeless person who just saw food. Could you please stop? We were at a restaurant. And that was the first time I noticed that I like swallowed food down whole. Like that's how fast I should eat. So I had to go through this training myself to eat really slowly. And the slower I ate, the more I enjoyed my food, the more I was in pleasure of it. So the easiest way to be in your sensual pleasure is to activate all 5 senses. To activate them. Okay? If you're looking at something, are you really looking at it, or you seem to be looking at that direction, but you're in your head? When you're walking, are your hips swaying and you're really in your body, or you're like walking pretty much like a quarterback or a man, right? That's pleasure. When you touch something, do you really feel it? That if you look at like, this is the only room that I haven't decorated yet in my entire house. This was supposed to be done right before COVID happened, but even still, notice that I have a lot of textures. I have fuzzy things. I have things that really put me in my feminine, because there's a lot to look at. There's a lot to take in. There's flowers, there's, candles, there's beautiful lighting. So all of that is you being in your feminine, like engaging that sensuality, engaging that pleasure. When you rub lotion on your body, do you rub it on like you are a woman on a mission, or you rub it on like you're seducing yourself? That is pleasure. Maggie said, I remember the story you told when you were with your mom and gulped down M&Ms or a Snickers bar. Oh my God. Yes. You remember my mom yelled at me? Yes. I was like 21, I think. Yeah. So you have to slow down. This is what we're learning in the physics of femininity. Slow down your metronome. When you're really fast, you guys know, does anyone know this? I should have Googled this because this is a really interesting science. When you have to swat a fly, do you guys know if you go really, really fast, she sees you coming and she flies away? Does anyone know this science? When you have to swat a fly, you go really slow and then you go hard. You guys know this, right? Okay, so that's how women are to men. When you're a female, you're just like going through the motions. You haven't learned the art of being a woman, right? When you're a woman, when you move slow, so let me give you an example. If there's five females at a party, and one of them is a woman, and she's gliding, like she's walking in, like she's walking slow, and she's just gliding, and she's taking pleasure in looking at all the lights and the beautiful decorations, and right? Men will notice her. They won't see the woman that's walking fast. It's almost like she's not there, because men read energy, right? They're reading your energy. They're reading feminine energy. This is not about your clothing, although that's fun too. It's your energy. If you're walking really, really fast, and you could be standing still, but if your metronome, your internal metronome is really fast, it's this anxious energy. Men will see you as masculine energy or neutral. They're not going to be able to read you as, ooh, that's a woman. Look at her. You know, at every party, there's always those one or two that everyone's looking at. They don't have to be the most beautiful. They don't have to be the most well-dressed. It's their energy. Everyone's looking at them. Okay, that's a woman. That's a woman. Okay. So, art of surrender, art of receiving, okay, voice, body language, energy, what you're radiating from within, art of pleasure, and art of desire. Okay, so those are the main ones that we're talking about right now. All right, so you have to go through that rite of passage on how to be a woman and learn this. You have to learn this. You have to retrain yourself for this. Maggie said, now when I eat, I smell the savory food before I place it in my mouth. And Maggie, there is an evolutionary advantage to this too, because you secrete the digestive juices that are actually going to help you digest that food. So this is really, really great on like multiple levels. And then delicately let it melt in my mouth. And my hubby loves all the oohs and ahs as I enjoy it. That is like nectar for a man. You are seducing him with the way that you're eating. That's why men love to feed us, is because they get to access that. You're actually allowing him to go into his body too. And scientifically, this is really great for your health as well. Okay? So this is the stuff that I teach in my trainings.